This video was made possible thanks to the support of our fantastic patrons. You guys truly are awesome. Hello everyone and welcome back to Affinity for Commander. My name is Alex and today we're going to be looking at improvements for the Commander 2019 Precon decks. We're also going to be trying to keep these lists fairly budget and keeping the focus of the decks on their own themes as well as the face commanders of the decks themselves. As always, if you see any cards in this video that you wish to purchase, be sure to do so through our TCG Player affiliate link in the description below. It won't cost you anything extra and it really helps the channel out a lot. The first commander we're going to be looking at is Gras Red Conclave Exile. Because he's my favourite and I'm choosing the order. Gras Red is all about populating and flooding the board with tokens. But nothing like the wee 1/1s of Reese. We're looking to use his trigger to populate his 4/4 Trampoly Rhino friend he comes in with. So for the first two cards to swap in for me are definitely going to be Parallel Lives and Anointed Procession. Both cards cost 4 mana and have near identical effects that read: if an effect would create one or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many tokens instead. These cards not only give us additional rhinos when Gras Red enters the battlefield, but also whenever we populate. Both of these enchantments can put stupidly high power on the board very quickly, and should probably be Crossing Gripped on sight by anyone else at the table. But without the commander, the deck still needs some solid token producers. One I love for this deck is God Eternal Oketra. She is a 3/6 legendary zombie god with double strike, for 2 white and 3 generic mana. She reads: whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 4/4 black zombie warrior creature token with vigilance. And whenever God Eternal Oketra dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library third from the top. Creating 4/4s with vigilance whenever you cast a creature spell can help establish a board state very quickly, and they also make excellent targets for our populating triggers. Speaking of Gras Red's populate trigger, it's only on attack. Now there are a lot of ways of giving him haste, but weighing them up I definitely like the cheap and effective Fires of Yavimaya. For 1 red and 1 green and 1 generic mana we get an enchantment that reads: creatures you control have haste. And sacrifice Fires of Yavimaya, target creature gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. Personally, I love the utility on this card. Being able to grant an additional pump of power for our Trampoly Rhinos is always nice. And the ability to play your commander and swing in with 10 power the turn he comes out, that is a very good reason to include this card in your deck. The final card for Gras Red that I think rounds him off without breaking the bank, looking at you doubling season, is Iroas, God of Victory. He is a 7/4 indestructible for 2 generic, 1 white and 1 red mana, and reads: as long as your devotion to red and white is less than 7, Iroas isn't a creature. Creatures you control also have menace, and prevent all damage that will be dealt to attacking creatures you control. Giving our already Trampoly Rhinos menace can make for some awkward blocks for your opponents. Plus the added bonus of preventing our creatures from dying in combat means we can swing out with Gras Red with complete immunity, knowing that blocks don't matter and we will still get our populating trigger. Moving on to Anjay, the deck could definitely benefit from some more madness. Quite frankly, the lack of madness in this deck is maddening. I'll show myself out. But the first bit of additional madness that I would look to include is Biting Rain. A sorcery for 2 generic and 2 black mana that reads: all creatures get -2/-2 until the end of turn. It also has madness for 2 generic mana and 1 black. Madnessing out a token and small creature killer for 3 at instant speed can have a load of benefits. Not only does Anjay survive it, it also gets rid of any elves, tokens or mana dorks our opponents might have cast earlier in the game. Another madness card that I think deserves a slot, Muck Drub. He is a 3/3 beast for 3 generic mana and 2 black, with flash. He reads, when Muck Drub enters the battlefield, change the target of target spell that targets only a single creature to Muck Drub. He also has madness for 2 generic mana and 1 black. This adorable little beast can give the deck some much needed interaction and counterplay, with the ability to tap Anjay, discard the Drub, and then be able to steal away any of our opponent's broken effects. Highly impactful cards like Tainted Strike or Temur Battle Rage for a Voltron commander now are essentially countered for 3 mana in black. Or to be even more malicious, wait until your opponent casts a Bear Umbra or Spirit Mantle for their Ul or Narset, and then, whoops, you now have a buffed beast and they're left with nothing. Keeping with our madness theme, we've got Voldaren Pariah, a 3/3 flyer for 3 generic mana and 2 black, with a madness cost of triple black. She reads, sacrifice 3 other creatures and transform this card. When she transforms, she becomes the Abolisher of Bloodlines. Such a metal name. Who is a 6/5 flyer with. When this creature transforms into Abolisher of Bloodlines, target opponent sacrifices 3 creatures. This transformation can be absolutely backbreaking to any opponent with huge threats on the table, and being able to madness this card out at instant speed for 3 black mana can be an immense bit of value if played at just the right time. Speaking of killing our opponent's creatures, Archfiend of Ifna is a 5/4 flyer for 3 generic mana and 2 black. He reads, whenever you cycle or discard a card, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature your opponents control. He also has cycling for 2 generic mana. If you've ever wanted a payoff for discarding cards, this is it. This demon can demolish mana dorks, go wide strategies or small tokens in a second. And these are -1/-1 counters, so the debuff stays for the rest of the game. Love it. 10 out of 10, would not cycle away. The last card for Anjay has got to be, for me, Psychosis Crawler. A 5 mana artifact creature horror whose power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your hand. But that's not really the important part. It also reads, whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. I am a big fan of cards that make the game go just that bit faster. Not to end it with infinite combos, but put a ticking clock on your opponent's life totals. With the discarding of madness cards, untapping of Anjay, you can easily be drawing 4 cards before it even gets back to your turn, and then do it all again. Perhaps not a win condition, but definitely a worthy inclusion. Moving on to our slinking sorcerer, sorry, I'll stop that now. Kadena is all about the face down cards, morphs and manifests, and burying your opponents underneath the value of her abilities. The first card is a personal favourite of mine, Vivien, Champion of the Wilds. A planeswalker for 2 generic mana and 1 green. Yes, she gives some card advantage in her -2, but that's not what I'm here for. Her static ability to give all creatures flash means you get to play a free morph on each of your opponent's turns, drawing a card each time you do it. This is because Kadena's ability is the first face down card each turn. Now yes, Leyline of Anticipation and Voldulcan Ori do the same thing, but Vivien is cheaper in both mana and cost. I mean, have you seen this artifact's price tag lately? And she also doesn't paint as big of a target on you as the other 2 cards most definitely do. Keeping with our planeswalkers, we have Ugin the Ineffable. For 6 generic mana, he is a 4 loyalty planeswalker with the static ability of colourless spells you cast cost 2 generic mana less to cast. His +1 reads, exile the top card of your library face down and look at it. Create a 2/2 colourless spirit token. When that token leaves the battlefield, put the exiled card into your hand. And his -3 reads, destroy target permanent that's 1 or more colours. This dragon comes with great utility. Destroying permanents is always nice, and producing blockers as a plus with card advantage is also great. But this dragon's static ability in fact reads, it's a little bit hard to make out, that's it. Morphs now cost 1 generic mana to play. A perfect addition for this deck. Adding this with Kadena means we're drawing so many cards on each of our turns for the cost of 1 low mana. But this deck still needs morphs to cast, and a pet favourite of mine is Dulicit Sirens. A 1/3 siren creature for 2 generic mana and 1 blue. They read, target creature attacks target opponent this turn if able. They also have morph for 1 blue mana. So in other words, for the cheap cost of 1 blue mana, you get to ensure that the biggest threat on the table is always attacking someone who isn't you for the rest of the game, saving both your life total and reducing your opponents at the same time. Moving slightly away from morphs into the realm of manifests, we have Whisperwood Elemental, who helps in providing more of a board presence through the first ability of manifesting the top card of our library during our end step. The Elemental also helps semi-solve the problem that all creature-heavy decks face, the inevitability of a board wipe. Whisperwood's last ability allows him to sacrifice himself to give all our face-up creatures. When this creature dies this turn, manifest the top card of your library. So when someone does cast Wrath of God, we can still sit pretty knowing we'll have some forces remaining behind. And our last card also deals with manifests, and it also coincidentally comes directly from another Commander product. Primordial Mists is a 5 mana enchantment that allows us to manifest the top card of our library at the beginning of our end step. So far, so Whisperwood. But the really great part is that you can exile any face-down permanent you control and then play that card, getting around that always painful feeling of manifesting the extra land you really needed. Now you can simply play it next turn. This goes for non-creature spells as well, fixing one of the main issues with manifests for 5 mana? Sign me right up. And up last is our newest Jeskai commander, Savene the Chronoclasm, which I imagine you're playing instead of Elsha the Infinite because you like a challenge? You lost a bet somehow. Anyway, let's say you're playing the damage-proof blocker that is Savene. What are the cards that can be used to best support him? For starters, you're casting a lot of spells, so let's take advantage of that. Kaikar Wind's Fury is a 3/4 flying legendary bird wizard for 1 generic, 1 red, 1 white, and 1 blue mana. He reads, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 flying spirit token, and sacrifice a spirit, add red to your mana pool. So he not only creates flying blockers, but can also substitute these spirits for mana for when that devil's play just needs those extra points of damage. For me, this card is definitely better than both Young Pyromancer and Murmuring Mystic, triggering off all our non-creature spells and ramping us in Jeskai. The next card to look for is Ral Zarek. Well, the Ral Zarek that really should have been in the deck in the first place. Ral Storm Conduit. His passive of pinging opponents is certainly not broken, but when you're spell slinging at least 4 spells a turn in some cases, the damage does start to add up. His -2 also combos very well with Savene's ability to be able to cast a card from your graveyard and copy it twice. Casting Rally the Peasants to give all your creatures +6/+0 seems exceptionally strong, especially if you're gearing the deck towards token strategies. The next card I want to bring up shows that tutoring in Commander is still powerful, with Quiet Speculation. Putting 3 flashbackable cards you need right now in your grave can help you out of most situations. With this card itself being only 2 mana, you should definitely have enough untapped lands to be able to cast whatever you just pitched. A very strong card in this deck, especially considering its mana cost. But what if we want to cast cards from our graveyard and don't want to shell out the $60 for a Snapcaster Mage? Then Torrential Gearhawk is here. True, his ability only works on instants, but he also comes with a 5/6 body and doesn't require you pay the mana for any spells you cast with him. Besides, if you're casting something like Mystic Confluence or Fact or Fiction from the grave, then I'd rather have the 5/6 body to boot anyway. The final card I propose should go into our spell slingery copy type deck is a card that makes those spells cheaper and then helps in copying them later on. Primal Amulet is an artifact for 4 generic mana and reads: instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 generic less to cast. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a charge counter on Primal Amulet. Then, if there are 4 or more charge counters on it, you may remove those counters and transform it. When you do transform it, it turns into Primal Wellspring, a legendary land that reads: tap, add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. When that mana is spent to cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Primal Amulet is a great include to help edge out those other players that may have ramped earlier. Making your instants and sorcery spells cheaper to cast normally and from the grave helps trigger our amulet twice. And then when flipped into Primal Wellspring, this land now copies our spells from wherever they are cast. Provided you use the mana produced by the Wellspring, of course. This card, much like Ral's -2 ability, garners 3 copies of a spell from our grave, a very strong include for a deck looking to bury its opponents in value recursion spells. And that is our list for the top cards to add to the new Commander 2019 precons. But now I want to know what you think. Are there any glaring cards that I've missed out on that you thought should be included? Let us know in the comments below. And if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. And if you really like us, you could consider following us on Twitter @4commander or becoming a patron of the channel yourself. And as always, we'll see you next time.